Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. You are here for episode number 170, and we are continuing our summer series of unscripted episodes, meaning I am leading these conversations through the summer without an agenda, without a formal outline or anything that I feel needs to be overly structured. And that's just sort of like how my energy is right now. I am honestly traveling more than I'm home, on the road with my boys, playing 2 different sports and traveling to different states. And I feel so gosh darn lucky to have a business that I can take mobile. And honestly, because I have such an incredible team behind me who can hold it all together and help me keep my head on straight and just keep the incredible level of excellence held so high that we expect to deliver at a world-class level over here at KLC. Super excited. So welcome to episode 170. We're going to talk actually today about the real truth about entrepreneurship, because just like life is 50-50, right? For as many ups, there are equal downs. And it's just all part of the human experience. I think feeling those ups are so incredible, and also experiencing the downsides and adversities and turbulence and the things that we overcome is really where the magic of life actually is, right? When we push ourselves out of our comfort zone and we challenge ourselves to do something that we didn't maybe even think we could accomplish, and then we do, that is the most incredible gift. So I want to talk about entrepreneurship and some of the realities of what it really means, because what I honestly see on social media, and in particular in the aesthetics and wellness space, is this disproportionate glamorization of business ownership. You see a smooth running business operation, a perfect on-brand, high-functioning team, providers who are gaining thought leadership and getting more speaking engagements on podium. They are opening training institutes. They're getting fame and making social impact and all of these things. And there is plenty of that. And we work with many women who have achieved many of these incredible feats, but not without struggle. And I'm not talking about the kind of struggle that we endure grinding to get our business up and running, that kind of hustle grind, the grind where you have to try things 10 times and kind of fail. And then, oh, now I figured it out. Or you have to spend a lot of money on like a bad contractor or a bad partner or something, and then go another direction, right? Like that's totally a terrible grind that we all definitely go through. I'm not talking about that grind of like the blood and sweat. What I'm talking about today is the struggling that happens deep down inside, the kind that no one else knows about. And that's a struggle that can feel extraordinarily empty and isolating. And it's a struggle that will only be exposed in a provocative, raw, authentic place, like right here, because, well, number one, it's not sexy and it doesn't sell something. And number two, it's reserved for a very specific type of business leader, someone that is doing hard things that 99% of the world just doesn't, like won't even attempt and will never be able to relate to. I remember working with a business coach a while back, and she said to me, I only attend social events with fellow entrepreneurs because any other conversation would bore me, right? And so she talked about, I have like a circle of friends and we're like, we are who we are. And then there's like the common folk. And I felt that was totally degrading. She was completely kidding, obviously. But I laughed because I was thinking about how she was sort of saying sometimes other people don't want to say or what they're thinking, when you feel like you're around people that just can't completely relate to you. And I think what she meant by that was that sitting in a room and talking about the struggles that most moms, let's say, she's a mom raising 2 teenagers, juggling schedules, trying to be present and engaged with her kids while not losing focus on herself. Like these are all really normal and important conversations to have. But these are like so minor in the back of her mind, right? Compared to the challenges of the complexities that she navigates as a business owner. And what's so unique about building a business is this magnifying glass, the level of frequency and the magnitude of these struggles and the risk that's involved with every decision that has to be made. And as business leaders, we have to make decisions when there's no right answer, right? There's like not, pick the left from right and let me analyze and do my quantitative and qualitative research and boom, that's it. Sometimes it's just have to lean into our own instinct or lean into what our gut tells us or just do it scared. So it's like, no offense if you're trying to sort out which treadmill to buy for your home gym and challenges like that, because I've totally been there many times, right? But look, leadership as a female entrepreneur under the hood is actually very, very lonely. And I want to take a minute to really just put that out there, because I think too often we minimize this truth. And by result, we create this domino effect of other issues. If we just put it out there and accept that there will be times that no one else on planet Earth will understand us or believe in us, we can stop dwelling in isolation and move on to prove ourselves right. And I have been thinking about this a lot. And we say this like business ownership is lonely or it's lonely at the top. How many times have you heard that? And how many times have you felt that, right? When we start to really hit that next level or achieve something that a lot of people really don't get, or we're trying to accomplish something. Like I know my sister was training for a fitness competition, and she would literally, her whole life was go to the gym, obviously multiple times a day, and drink protein shakes and eat like dried chicken and broccoli. And like that was her entire life. She did no socializing. Like we would have a party and she couldn't even have a glass of wine, nothing. That's what she did. Everybody around me was like, what is wrong with her? Why would she put herself through that? And at the end of the day, she was putting herself up to a challenge that the majority of the world would never have the discipline. I say the desire, but the truth is I desire that body. Trust me, I would take that body if I wanted to commit to the discipline to do that. And it's lonely. It's lonely at the top. It's lonely when we're trying to do incredible game-changing things. And as visionary women, we are manifesting and visualizing and seeing things that do not exist. We actually feel pain or sense a need or sense a gap, and we go and fill it, right? Instead of sitting back and talking about people or complaining about it or wishing it would get better or commiserating, we go and freaking solve that problem. And that's essentially what we're all doing as business owners. We are stepping up and saying, I'll take that. We're the ones that are wearing the hat or taking on the responsibility to go and make significant change and impact in the world. And that in itself can feel lonely. And so I was thinking about the different ways over the past few weeks as I have been on my travels about how loneliness really manifests itself. And I think that there's also these differences between being a business owner and an entrepreneur and a founder. And while I tend to use these words interchangeably because I resonate with all three of these titles, I really think that there is a certain onus, a certain responsibility that a founder takes on that is very different between someone who just owns a business or someone who's an entrepreneur. I'm just going to not Wikipedia it, but sort of explain my interpretation of the differences between these types of roles, right? So an owner, just simply that's a title of somebody who owns a business. I take full ownership responsibility. And at the end of the day, everything that happens in this business begins and ends with me. And what happens within the operations may or may not involve me whatsoever. It means I own it. Like I own my vehicle, right? Own my car. You can be a business owner and still not really be an entrepreneur and still not really be a founder, okay? An entrepreneur is somebody who sees opportunities to invest in something to make money. An entrepreneur could own multiple businesses or could start multiple businesses, buy and sell them. They see business ownership as an opportunity to develop assets and to continue to perpetuate to make more of those. And then a founder is somebody who is bootstrapping, building and growing the business shoulder to shoulder. And a lot of times in our industry too, is we're working with female founders of aesthetic medical practices or aesthetic or wellness practices. They are co-branded with their business, right? They are their business. A lot of times their name is the name of the business and they're providing the service. And so much of what happens in that business is so intimately connected to who they are as a woman and the way that they feel and the way that they think and act and the beliefs and the DNA that they have, because they're growing something that not only fuels and fulfills a gap in the marketplace, but ultimately fuels and fulfills a gap in themselves. And I think that's an important distinction to understand, because when we talk about entrepreneurship being lonely, what I'm really talking about is a woman who her own identity is so deeply connected to the success of the business that she is building that when it becomes unsuccessful or off track or stuck or right, you almost can sense that that is stemming from what's happening inside her. And so I've been really thinking about these different nuances of loneliness, and I wanted to talk about a few of them. One of them is this whole idea of what we can and cannot afford. And I hear this a lot when we are working with women who are making this decision to come and make a big investment in working with us, right? We are a high ticket, high touch, transformation-based business, and it's a big investment. One, in financial investment. Two, in the time that a business leader has to invest in themselves. And I think a lot of times there is that fear that if I make that huge investment and then I still don't achieve XYZ, I really am a failure. Versus, well, not sure if I can afford it. I maybe can, I maybe can't. That is so directly linked to our sense of worthiness as a woman. And the way that we show up and enroll other people into our worthiness around that conversation can be directly reflected by our ability to take a risk on ourselves. So for example, back when I started my business, my initial consulting business, right, when it was just me, I started getting busy and I was doing well, right? The business was growing. We're all excited. I left a really good, nice, lucrative paycheck in corporate America, safety, security, blah, 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 benefits, all the things. Like now I'm starting to get more business, like everybody's happy. And then you get to that point where you're like, okay, now I have to actually make some real investments for this thing to grow because I can't possibly do it on myself. Like now there's nothing left in my brain that I have to scale back or I will not continue. So then it's, well, I need to invest in support and administrative support and marketing and the things that are going to help me build an actual real business, right? When I started doing this, it was like, okay, I needed $5,000 here and 10 grand here. And then it was like, well, okay, I need like 30 grand to get this thing going. And I remember, obviously I had my own money saved up and I have a husband and we have our own bank accounts and we have a shared account and all the things. And my dad always raised me to have your own money. Don't rely on a man. But especially when I stopped working, we were making a lot of financial decisions together. So I remember sitting down with him and he was like, Kaylee, you can't just keep spending. And, you know, when you first make those big investments, it's an investment. Like it looks like you are a crazy woman because you're spending all this money and like it's not coming in right away. It's an investment to get things going, to build traction. You're investing in the future and you have to be patient with that. You know, it takes time. And I remember Chad, my husband, was just like, okay, we're good. He thought I had like a little jobby, you know. I had to sit down with him. And I remember having a heart to heart with him and saying, listen, I'm telling you right now that I'm building $1 million business here. That is non-negotiable. Like it is happening. And it was kind of like, get out of my way. You know, it was this conversation, but I remember I had to really sit down and prep myself for that conversation because I felt this innate frustration that he didn't believe in me. I think that was really where it stemmed from, that it was like, well, why are you telling me what I can and can't spend or should and shouldn't? Does that mean you don't believe I can accomplish X, Y, Z? And at the end of the day, it was me needing to ask myself, wait a minute, Kaylee, do you really believe in what you're building? Do you really believe that these investments are going to help you achieve those goals that you believe in yourself to achieve? And the answer was a resounding yes. And so there was nothing to be triggered over. It was just simply a big, deep breath and a conversation that this is what I'm building and this is what I'm doing. And I need your support. And I have learned to calmly and charismatically have this conversation with many people around me sometimes women will be like, oh, I need to talk to my accountant, right? No, your accountant just tells you what you need to prepare to owe in taxes. They are not managing your financial investments in the future. Nobody, not your husband, not your accountant, not your team members, not your kids, not your dogs, nobody knows what you are out to achieve. Nobody knows that. That is your vision. And that is your dream to go and accomplish and make happen. And so when I think about this sort of loneliness, we keep this all bottled inside that if I don't have people that believe in me, I don't know if I can make these investments. And so I see this loneliness, this lonely sort of innate feeling happen around making investments in ourselves. Whereas if you could imagine that, what if that all worked out? And what if you had that faith in your own self and your own ability to push on any button and a result would happen? And even if it didn't, you tried that and now you can try something else. So that's one area. Another area I see entrepreneurial loneliness or female founders create this lonely factor for themselves is that we shame ourselves and we make things worse. So like normal things would happen, like our kids, when they're learning how to walk, they fall on their face and we just expect it. No one's like, you fell, Susie. Why did you fall when you were trying to learn how to walk for the first time? It's like, we're crazy. We are trying to do things for the first time ever. We've never done before. And yet we're failing. And I even use that term lightly, or something doesn't come to us as naturally, or we try something and we're totally wrong about it, or it just flat out didn't work. And then we sit and we just like dwell on it in our head and we shame ourselves and we're perfectionists. And so we start feeling like, well, maybe just next time I won't just go out and do it. I'm going to take more time to research, right? Make sure I do more research. And then we start telling ourselves this story like, I have to make sure every duck is in a row and I have to complete this first and that task and this and this and this and this and this. And then we never make any progress because we sit here in our perfectionism and then we shame ourselves when we haven't hit some benign goal, by the way. You know that no one else sets goals for you. You set them for your freaking self. We don't hit this like abstract goal and then we start shaming ourselves for not hitting it. It's like you set the goal. It's absolutely insane. But I know you're laughing with me right now because it's so the truth. This is what we do. And then we suppress our truths, good or bad, right? We just kind of dim our light. We dim our candle. We don't listen to those little voices, our instincts. I just listened to a really great podcast this morning from Chris Plackey. She talked about honest conversations and that we avoid having honest conversations with people and ourselves because I think part of it is this sort of facade of perfectionism that we want to have or that we believe we should achieve. And I'll get to that. But we stop giving constructive feedback. We're afraid that if we do, something bad's going to happen, or we're afraid someone will leave us, or we might get negative feedback back in return. And we're afraid that that might mean something about us, or we're afraid of being wrong or not seen or heard for who we really are. And so many of these honest conversations she talks about just go unspoken. And so instead, we're sitting around with a lot of flat out fakeness around us, right? Because we have this truth inside of us that we're afraid to bring out because we're afraid of what that might mean about us or how it might make us feel as leaders. I think back to a story of a client who recently had an amazing multi-million dollar business in the tens of millions a year in revenue. And she didn't really know everything that was going on. Like she had really independent, autonomous team members and leaders, of team members in her business who just kind of got things done. And she felt out of the loop about things. And she felt like when she would ask, they would kind of say, well, I have it handled. You stay in your lane and I'll stay in my lane. Well, that is not a good sign. And I think she had this feeling like, well, I want to be more involved and know what's happening. Shouldn't I be able to know what's happening in my business? And the answer is absolutely, you should be able to know what's happening in your business. And she, sure enough, had 2 employees who were in cahoots that ended up backstabbing her essentially. And she had to let team members go. And she was left literally with vital open positions with nobody to fill them. And she had to absolutely stagnate in her business while she found replacement for these employees. And what's so funny is looking back at that story, there was this toxicity that she knew was there, but she avoided it because there was like a warm body. I think she didn't want to feel lonely and didn't want to feel alone, even though she really was, because she didn't have the people supporting her that she needed. And so now she's lonely in a different way. Now she's lonely and doesn't have anybody, but she gets to rebuild and bring in people who can be a vital part of the growth in her company. And it makes me really think about how new beginnings so often start with endings. And I think that's another point of contention of loneliness for us as female founders, is that we have to go to this place of ending things and of no's and elimination and boundaries and pruning and cutting back so much more than the average person, because we have to stay so vigilantly focused on what we're looking to accomplish when most people don't understand these crazy brains that we have. That in itself is lonely, and that can be isolating. Like, of course, we want to be the ones that have all the great people around us and everybody supporting us, but we have to make those difficult decisions. There's also this thing of success in itself and the pressure that comes with the expectation of success. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that. And so it's sort of like once you hit this level or you hit this milestone, now that's your baseline. It's like the expectation is now, okay, we've already seen you do this. Like, now prove it. Now show me how capable you are. And so we have to continue raising the bar, continue pushing, continue doing more, continue showing up more, continue giving more of ourselves. And what I see happen there is that we then start listening to this outside noise of the expectations that other people have, the optics of what we should be doing or what success really looks like. And okay, now prove it. Then we easily can get off track and again, come misaligned with what our truths are. And there lies the loneliness. So it's so important, right? Is that we stay connected to who we truly are inside and to what our goals are. When I talk about a life first business, this is exactly what I am referring to and I'm talking about. If you're not doing the work to really look deep inside to know what it is that you really truly want for yourself, for your life, and how your business is going to work as a vehicle to fuel that, you're going to feel very lonely. It's going to be a lonely endeavor, climbing to the top of a mountain that you don't want to be on. And I think that what most people don't appreciate about success is that it's so internal to who we are, and it's not about hitting that next level. I remember when I hit that first million, I wasn't like, oh, wow, I'm so amazing. Like that was ultimately a huge goal. I was like, okay, now I can prove Chad wrong. Like that was it for me. Like to say, I told you so. To him, to all the managers I worked for in corporate America who doubted me, to like, I don't even know, Susie on the playground when I was 4 years old. All these memories kept flooding back. Ultimately, Goddess, it's not even about that. It's honestly not about that. I could hit another million. I know what I need to do that. I just need time. I could hit multiple millions. I could buy the things. And at the end of the day, that is not, I know, going to make me happier. What is going to make me happier is instead of clinging to the highlights of what I've accomplished and hanging on to that next achievement, hanging up that next shingle or that next thing, going inside and getting really clear and honest with myself about what I want out of life and finding success along the path. It's really about the journey to achieving that. And I think we're extraordinarily hard on ourselves as female entrepreneurs. And I think that while entrepreneurship can be extremely lonely, I want you to know that you can find peace and camaraderie and collaboration with other women who have felt those feelings, who are slaying the same dragons daily, and who can relate and resonate and have those conversations with you. And that's why I've created what I created. I had a hard time finding that, honestly, for myself. I'm like, where's my tribe? I need to find women who can think and talk and act like me. That's why we do what we do over here. So this is resonating for you and you are not in our community, head to klcconsultants.com/join. Listen to some more podcasts, get into our Confidence to Scale programming, have a call with us. Let's talk about you, your goals, and what you need to invest in yourself to become the kind of leader that you know you're capable of becoming and that you dream of becoming. We are here for you. Have an amazing week. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode, and I will talk to you same place, same time next Monday. Wait, before you go, If you're vibing with this conversation and want to join me on my mission to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year, or maybe you want to become one of them, head over to Facebook and join our free community, the Fierce Factor Society. Over there, we are taking this conversation to an elevated level. Get access to resource guides, podcast supplements, and guideposts, direct communication with me and my expert team, and of course, a society of fierce women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to Facebook and search up the Fierce Factor Society. See you there, goddess.